How many steps do you walk per day? 5,000, 8,000, 10,000? What would you think the average amount of steps that the average person walks every single day in America? What if I told you that that average was just 3,000 steps a day? That's way lower than the 10,000 steps we always hear we need, right? What's the importance of that? Well, in this episode, I'm going to actually share with you why that movement is important and give you the facts to back it up. Hey, I've noticed on my analytics here that more than 90% of you are watching my videos. Yay, that's a good thing. But you're not subscribing. And it's like I'm putting these out every week, and I'd really love for you to be aware of when they come out so that you can be one of the first ones to get them. And so please subscribe down below, ring the bell to get the notifications, and please send me your questions. I love talking to you. Like to see more of you come on board. Thanks a lot. Welcome back to the Muscle Repair Shop. So that's correct. The average American's walking about 3,000 steps a day, which is terrible. And this is people of all ages. And that becomes real important. When you go back and think about when we were hunter-gatherers, according to Peter's article, the average hunter-gatherer walked about 28,000 steps a day as they were hunting down game for food, or they were collecting berries, or they were building structures. So you didn't see a lot of overweight people at that time. They were eating healthy, their hearts were healthy. Now, I realize that for some of you may say, well, the life expectancy wasn't so high, but part of that came from infant mortality, and we've sort of corrected a lot of that. But the important thing is that the foods they were eating were foods that were good for their bodies, and they were moving quite a bit, and that becomes important. So when you look at your weight, you look at the movement, not only are you doing things cardiovascularly, but you're also improving your muscle mass. You see, we start losing muscle mass at the rate of about 1% per year, starting at about age 30. So even if you're 35, 40, 45 years old, the earlier you start getting into the movement game, the healthier you're going to be when you're 60, 65, 70 years old. And if you're already 65 and 70 years old, moving now will actually help free up your joints and free up your body and keep your mobility if you have it already. And so those are things that are important, because you see, when you lose muscle mass and you get older, like over 60, the risk of falling and breaking a hip becomes very high. And if you do that, even if you have surgery to fix the hip, your risk of death is only reduced by about 21%. If you don't have that surgery, that risk of death can climb as high as 70%, according to this article. So let's go over today some things that you can do that's important. So if you have a job where you have to sit a lot, if you can get a stand-up desk, that's fine. If not, get up and walk around every so often that you can. But, you can get desks that where you can have a treadmill with it, and you can walk along the treadmill if you can afford to do that. That's an awesome thing to do. You could have walking meetings if you're a manager of something or owner of a business. You could do that to get your steps in every single day, just to get started. If you have a pool, like down here in Florida, a lot of homes have pools, swim a few laps a day, every day. Do it before you go to work, do it when you come home after work, if that's possible. If you have a bike, ride a bike. You can do that as well. And so just that movement, getting those muscles moving, does two things. Number one, the muscles get stronger, and the joints and the disc in your back become more lubricated, taking the compression off the disc and the compression off the joints, which just might keep your joints healthier. You never know, So the thing is once you get started with that, the goal is to keep it consistent on a daily basis. Now, when I talk about that in walking, don't go out and try to walk 15 miles the first day if you haven't walked in 10 years. That's insane. It's not sustainable. Go out and walk a brisk walk as far as you can, where you have to come back. If you go into a circle around your neighborhood or whatever, that's fine. But go out, and that's your baseline. That's where you're starting. And then once you get that baseline, then you walk it several more days, and then when you feel comfortable, add on to it, and then go a little farther, and then go a little farther. Don't try to I see people, it's just kind of frustrating, because I see people all the time who they are wanting to train like they're going to the Olympics, and they're 55 years old. And so the thing is that understand where you are now and then work your way up from there. Once you get into the cardiovascular thing going and get moving, of course, stretching is always an important thing. You know me, I'm the stretch guy. So it's like you have to do the stretching. So the thing to think about is the physical exercise, building muscle, is like putting gasoline in your car for power. The stretching then becomes like lubrication for the joints and the spine so that you have freedom of movement and you can use all of that power that you're now building into your body. So make sure that you do the stretching, and you've seen other videos on this channel that will help you with that. Do the stretching as you're doing that along the way. I'm telling you, you'll be amazed how much weight you can lose by exercising. My first time when I lost 105 pounds, I literally at 315 started out walking around a one-bedroom apartment twice. That was as much as I could do it, and built myself up to 5 times before I moved to the outside of the apartment building and walked around the building once the first time. And it's like, I was like, this is insane. I was a 3-sport athlete. That's crazy. But you have to start somewhere, and that's your baseline. And when you do that, you start to build on that, and then eventually you'll walk farther and farther and farther, or ride your bike or swim or whatever you choose to do. Just don't overthink it and don't go crazy with it. Understand you have limitations. The second part of it is get into a weight training program. Now, that doesn't mean you have to lift barbells. I mean, you can lift barbells at a gym, that's fine, or go to the machines on the gym is fine. But you could use rubber bands. You could use body weight like push-ups and so forth. Again, if you haven't worked out in a long time, don't go there thinking you're going to do what you did 10, 20 years ago. It's not going to happen, okay? So I don't want you to hurt yourself. I want you to build on what you got here and let it grow and build better and better and better. And then thirdly, your diet is important. You don't want a restrictive diet. I lost 135 pounds and I thought it was pretty easy. And it really was, because I didn't have some restrictive diet where I'm restricting calories and I'm restricting that. I can't have this food and I can't have that food kind of thing. I learned about food, and you can learn about food on the internet. And when you do, now all of a sudden, making the right choice seems like a no-brainer. I mean, I look at myself before when I was so heavy, and I was like, man, I was pretty ignorant about food. I had no idea. And I just started learning and reading and asking questions and started learning about food. And as you do that, now what happens is that you start to realize the value of vegetables in your diet. You start to realize the value of protein in your diet. Most people in America are eating far less protein than they need. And I mean, to me, I'm running about 100, 125 grams a day as a guy. And I would say probably most guys would fall into that category. Women are probably somewhere between 75 and 100. But you got to have the building blocks from your food put in so that you can build this body. Otherwise, it's just going to go crazy. So, like even the order I eat my food in is I eat my vegetables first. And the reason for that is what I've been told is that I'm laying down fiber on the internal walls of my intestines to reduce so much absorption of the glucose into my bloodstream from the other foods that I'm eating. And then when you add the protein into it, the protein fills you up. So I do the vegetables first, protein second, and the protein will fill you up faster. And so then the refined carbs, which are things like breads and pastas and white rices, you don't have a lot of space for that. And so it's like a no-brainer. I mean, you can eat them, it's fine, but it's like a no-brainer. And so the thing is understanding food and how it works with you. You don't have to be a food scientist to do that, but take your time, learn about that. Green leafy vegetables are great. Cruciferous vegetables like Brussels sprouts, broccoli, asparagus are very good foods to eat. And then when you get to the meats, get good clean meats. And when I talk about good clean meats, I'm talking about things like grass-fed, grass-finished beef versus grain-fed beef, or pasture-raised pork and pasture-raised chickens. Same thing for the eggs. I mean, you can do an easy experiment that I did. Get a half dozen of regular eggs and a half dozen of pasteurized eggs and crack one of each And look how golden the pasture-raised yolk is in that egg versus the other one. It's a stark difference with that. But once you understand and do those three things, you can change your life just like I did mine. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. You just have to go do it and be consistent with it. And if you don't make it hard, if you don't overthink it, chances are you're going to be successful. Then what are you going to do with yourself? So that's my advice for today. Let's get moving. Let's get the whole country moving again. We got some people who are in real trouble out there, and I'd really like to see them get better. So for now, oh, don't forget, subscribe down below, ring the bell for notifications. Leave me comments. I want to hear what you think about this. Talk to you later. See ya.
I hope you enjoyed this last video. Be sure to click on the video here to my left and enjoy.